What is good people? You are now listening to another episode of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and this is an extremely special episode for me because I reached a personal milestone. As of May 13th, 2024, your homie is officially sober for 20 years. It is 7,300 consecutive days without a drop of alcohol. And to say that I'm proud of myself would be a gross understatement. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about my journey into sobriety. So if you remember in one of my childhood stories episodes, I talk about the first time I touched alcohol, which was me and one of my fellow Boy Scouts. We we had a weekend camp out of the church, and we snuck in the church kitchen and down a bottle of Manischewitz. And I mean, looking back on it, this is a silly good time. But fast forward to my senior year in high school, and after the home games, we leave the stadium, and about a mile from the stadium, there was this juke joint, and we would go there, and me and a couple of friends, and we would just party with my high school janitors. They weren't the ones that led me to the alcohol, but their friends did. And that was my first introduction to corn liquor. And let me tell you, that shit had a hold on me. Like it was bad. And I didn't really realize it because I was constantly under the influence whenever I would go to these parties at this juke joint. But I never really realized that I was a very mean and very destructive drunk. I always say if I were a happy drunk, I'd probably still be drinking, but that's just not how I'm wired. And surprisingly, I was always great at masking my addiction, especially around my parents and some of my other closest friends that weren't in that circle with me that would go to these juke joints every night or every Friday after a home game. But that was the beginning point of the path to destruction. And when I got to college, it got exponentially worse because in college, I mean, there's less restrictions. There's this element of freedom that you don't have in high school. So there, I mean, it was just no limit to how much alcohol I consumed. I was just always at parties. Every weekend I was at a party, drinking, fighting, just causing mayhem. And that eventually that started to wear down my friends. And it was, I'll never forget the day. It was May 12th, 2004. And my friends and I, we hit up this spot in this local spot called Jake and Willie's. That was our local hangout at the time. And we were at the bar. I had one too many, of course. And also another thing, if you put alcohol in front of me, I'm going to drink it. It didn't matter what it was. It could be the aforementioned corn liquor, it could be beer, wine, tequila. It did not matter. You put it in front of me, I'm drinking it, like with the quickness. And so that night, I was drinking pretty much everything. And my friends were looking at me and they were like, man, all right, it's to the point now where you really gotta relax. And I remember seeing this guy sitting on the far end of the bar. I'm already under the influence and I got this tunnel vision and I'm thinking he's looking at me when in actuality he's looking at somebody else. And so I get out of my chair and I confront him. I'm like, do you have a problem? He's like, oh, what are you talking about? I wasn't even looking at you. I'm like, you keep talking again. You keep talking, and I'm gonna whoop your ass. And before I knew it, I had picked up an empty bar stool and I hit him over the head with it. And my friends saw what happened and they made a beeline straight to me and they snatched me up and we hauled ass and we got in our cars and we left. And that following afternoon, they had a sit down slash come to Jesus moment with me. And they were like, look, your drinking is getting bad and it's just you displaying nothing but just pure destructive behavior when you're under the influence. And we can't allow this to go on anymore. We've been keeping these thoughts in long enough, but bro, you really got to get your shit together. And they were right. They were 100% right. It's always good to have that circle of friends that will always check you and call you out when you need to be called out. And frankly, I needed to be called out for my terrible behavior, especially when I was under the influence. And I didn't bark back at them when they had this meeting with me. I listened to what they said, and they talked about my destructive behavior in great detail and just the culmination of events that led to them having to sit down with me. And after they got through airing out their grievances, then they allowed me the chance to speak. And I was like, you know what? Y'all are 100% right. And I'm going to do better. The saying is always the best apology is change behavior. So I said, you know what? I'm going to change my ways and I'm going to stop drinking. But I didn't set out to quit cold turkey. I just simply wanted to see how long I could go without drinking. And I'm not even going to lie to you. Those first 2 months were the hardest 2 months of my entire life. I didn't go anywhere. I stayed in the house. I didn't do any socializing whatsoever. And it was hard. I was just going through withdrawals, and I was missing hanging out with my homies and being in these social settings. And I talked to him. I was like, after those 2 months, I was like, look, I'm losing my mind being stuck in this house. I want to continue to not drink, but I still want to be around. I still want to hang out with my homies. So they came up with a plan that was really to my benefit. So whenever we would go out, anytime they would do a shot of like any dark or clear alcohol, what they would do is they would give me a shot of sweet tea or they would give me a shot of water so I could still partake in the activity, so to speak, but there was no alcohol to be consumed at all. And that was really helpful for me because I missed having that camaraderie and I had missed being around my friends. And it was good to be back in these social circles again. And I also had them hold me accountable as well. I'm like, look, I want to hang out, but I'm doing my best to not drink. And if you see me, my attitude, if my thoughts are to, go in the direction of asking the bartender to give me a beer or anything alcoholic, y'all just nip that in the bud, stop that dead in its tracks. And they were like, all right, we're going to hold you accountable. So it was hard, but eventually after about 3.5 to 4 months, that desire to drink just slowly started to go away. And it got to the point where I had no problem being in settings where alcohol is flowing freely. And, I'm not having any withdrawals or having any fall off the wagon moments. And I gotta toot my own horn. I'm super proud of myself of being resilient and not resisting the temptation to drink again. And so it's just been clean living ever since. And if you're going through a similar situation, or you have a friend that's going through a similar situation, just reach out to them, let them know that there's a way you can get through this. You got AA, you got Alcoholics Anonymous. 12-step programs. There's different avenues to substance abuse treatment that they can take. And just to let you know, if you're listening and you have a drinking problem, you're not alone, and I'm here for you. If you got a problem, you can reach out to me as well. Like, seriously, because if I can do it, you can do it as well. You're stronger than you think you are. And that's going to do it for this episode of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. Thank you for listening. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe to my podcast. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find me at Danny Foxworth 843. There, you can find all the videos for all the episodes for this podcast, as well as my baseball podcast, At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. And cheers to the sober life. 20 years. Congrats, Danny. Good job. And until next time, y'all be good. Peace.